Michael, thanks very much. And he took away all my thunder there by saying how great Jessica is. But Jess Nickel was working for me when this started in 2004, 2005. And honestly, I wouldn't be standing here today but for her getting me engaged in this issue. And it was really almost through happenstance in the sense that we were working a lot on the anti-drug front, drug prevention, drug treatment, drug education, and we came across these statistics from the Justice Department, Ruby, that indicated that over 80% of folks who had committed crimes, at least in the federal system, did so under the influence of drugs or alcohol. And that prisoners coming out, ex-offenders coming out, had these extremely high rates of substance abuse addiction. We'll hear some about that today from one of the beneficiaries of a second chance program. And unless you deal with this issue of substance abuse and mental health, in my view, we're not going to be able to continue to have this progress we've begun to see on recidivism, lowering rates of recidivism. So that's really how I got involved, and I want to thank Jess for that. And to Mike, thank you. I'm reading the Reentry Matters newsletter they just put out from Council State Governments. They do a great job. They've really focused on this issue, and I want to thank all the other participants who are here today. We've got a great group of experts you're going to hear from who have been behind this effort long before I got involved and before Congress, took up a federal legislative initiative. And they continue to push the ball forward because it's not going to happen because of federal legislation. It's going to happen because of people in our communities getting engaged and involved. And the people you see behind me here have helped to encourage that all across America. And to Danny Davis, back when we started this again, 2004, 2005 time period, Danny and I partnered together, and he's still at it. And honestly, he has continued to do what he did at the time. I'm going to get him in trouble here with his own party. But it would have been easy for him just to say, we're going to go with the Democrat approach to this, which frankly had more money in it and had some policy initiatives in it the Republicans couldn't support. And that would have been fine. He could have gone back home to his district and talk about it. And by the way, he was helpful to me in this whole process, telling me about when he walks down the street in his district, he runs into ex-offenders a lot. And at that time, I represented a more conservative district in Ohio, very urban and suburban, not urban, very suburban and rural. Now I represent the whole state of Ohio, which is a lot more urban. But my point is that Danny decided he wanted to get something done and was willing to make, frankly, some compromises to get a good bill through. And he continues to do it, to the point that today I can tell you that we are going to be introducing legislation, Senator Leahy and I here in the Senate. Of course, I want to thank Pat Leahy. It's good to have the chairman of the Judiciary Committee on your side. It took us, I think, 3 years to get a hearing in the Judiciary Committee when we started this thing. But again, he's done it because we have not just a bipartisan bill, we have a bicameral bill. And to Mike's point about how this place is pretty partisan, that's very rare to have legislation, Democrat Senate, Republican House, that is identical. And you know the list of people who are supporting us, but it does include the co-chairs for this, the honorary co-chairs for this meeting today, Howard Coble, Danny Davis, of course, Bobby Scott, who's with us. I look forward to hearing from Bobby. Without Congressman Sensenbrenner, Jim Sensenbrenner, it wouldn't be possible either. And so I want to thank them. All those members have put a lot of time and effort into making sure we can come up with something that can actually get done and go to the president's desk for signature. We're going to be relying on some of you in this room who are interested in promoting this, and I assume most of you are, to help us get the co-sponsors to be able to move this very quickly in the Senate and the House. And with the team that we've got behind this, not just the members of Congress I mentioned, but also the nonprofits behind me and the people in this room who care about this issue, I'm very optimistic. But it's going to take some work, and we're going to have to do it. The statistics are just overwhelming. 95% of the people who go into our jails or prisons are going to get out. They're going to come back to our communities. And if we don't provide some help to them, they unfortunately are going to turn around and get back into the prison system. At least most of them will. And that's that high rate of recidivism that we talked about earlier. And that's what happens. So some can say, well, it shouldn't happen. It does happen. And the stats are about 2/3 of those people who get out of jail or prison. And by the way, 7 million a year released from jails and prisons. About 2/3 of them are back in the system. They're rearrested, within 2 or 3 years. Those statistics are improving, and I think they're improving in part because of this legislation, the Second Chance Act. It needs to be reauthorized. We can even target it further and improve it further through the reauthorization. We're also looking at the fiscal issues as we reauthorize this in a sensitive way. But this is one of those pieces of legislation that over the last decade, I think you look back at what's passed Congress, what's mattered. This is one you can really say has mattered. It's leveraged a lot of support at the local level, taking those federal dollars and making them work to improve people's lives. And again, I'm really encouraged by the big group we've got behind us now, but it's partly because it's worked. It's worked, and it's worked to help protect our communities, reduce crime. It's worked to help the taxpayer, because taxpayers are paying less now. As you know, the costs of incarcerating people continue to go up to the point that it's now the second fastest growing budget item with the state of Ohio, and on a national basis, that's also true. Second behind Medicaid, which gets a lot of play. Everyone knows how expensive health care is and how it's going up, but so is putting people behind bars. It's about $25,000 a person on average per year. And so taxpayers are benefiting by getting people out of that revolving door and into society as productive tax-paying citizens. And that's something that we should not ignore. This is not just about getting people not to go to jail, but it's also getting people to be able to achieve their God-given abilities and become citizens who are contributing and have the dignity and self-respect that comes from being able to take care of their families. And that's something you can't put a number on. We are excited, again, about what's happened, but we also know a lot more can and must happen. When I began working on this issue about 10 years ago, there was a 67% recidivism rate nationally. And I tell you, when I talked to my constituents about it, they were shocked by that. They continue to be shocked by the high numbers. And again, it's still way too high, but thanks to, again, the leadership that has been shown in this room, Second Chance Act generating a lot of interest, again, leveraging a lot of efforts at the local and state level, states have seen significant declines. In my own state of Ohio, we've seen double-digit declines since 2005. We now have the lowest recidivism rate ever measured in Ohio. It's still too high. It's 28%. But that's a vast improvement. And again, it's not just because of Second Chance Act, but Second Chance Act has played a big role here in ensuring that there is other activity at the local and state level to get us there. So you're going to hear from some folks today. Again, this is not just about these statistics that are impressive, but it's about the people whose lives have been changed. I spent a week at home after the government reopened because we were so exhausted after actually voting for something here that we got a district work period off, or for me a state work period off, and it wasn't expected. So what I did is I went to downtown Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati, and met with Second Chance Act recipients and went to some of these nonprofits, Cincinnati Cooks in Cincinnati, Lutheran Ministries up in Cleveland, a group in Columbus that does great work on housing and jobs, and got the chance to visit with the people who are actually benefiting. Melvin McConnell, Cleveland, Ohio, in and out of prison his entire life. He's almost my age. And he is now, thanks to the Second Chance Act funding and the help that he's gotten locally and some of these programs, he's employed full-time. He's able to take care of his kid. He is clean and sober and has been for 4 years. And when you see it, the smile on his face and what it's made, what kind of difference it's made in his life and the life of his family, that's when you know that this thing is actually working to break that vicious cycle and turn lives around. So with that, again, I thank you all for being here to help us launch this reauthorization. Because you've shown up, you've taken on a responsibility, and that's to find co-sponsors and get this thing moving. This place has got a lot of inertia. It's hard to get things done, so we're going to need your help. And if we do that, then the work done under the Second Chance Act can continue, and we can continue to help people and save lives one life at a time. Thank you.